I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Jason, and I've been with my wife Emily for about 5 years. We got engaged last year and everything seemed perfect, at least on the surface. I was happy, she was happy, or so I thought. We'd planned our wedding, booked the venue, and I was just counting down the days until we'd tie the knot. I trusted her completely. She was the kind of girl who would say she was at her sister's or running errands and I'd never second-guess her. That's how it was, or so I believed. But looking back now, there were little signs I ignored. She started being more secretive with her phone, sometimes shutting it when I entered the room. She'd get defensive if I asked who she was texting or what she was doing. I just thought she was being private, maybe cautious. Nothing really shady, right? Plus, she insisted she was busy with work, and I believed her because she was always working late, or so she claimed. Small things, but enough to make me wonder just a little bit more than I probably should have. Then came the week before the wedding. She had been acting weird, more cold, distant, and quick to dismiss my questions. I'd catch her glancing at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. One night, I saw her leave her phone face down on the nightstand while she was in the shower, and I couldn't resist. I picked it up and unlocked it with her fingerprint, something I'd never done before. Honestly, I was just curious. When I scrolled through her messages, I noticed a few texts from her boss, a guy named Mark. Nothing explicit at first glance, just flirty, kind of suggestive exchanges about work stuff, with little inside jokes that didn't sit right. I thought maybe I was overthinking it. But then I saw the timestamps, late at night after work hours, sometimes even during the weekends. And she was replying quickly, almost obsessively. That's when I started digging deeper. I checked her emails, her social media, everything. It felt wrong, like I was invading her privacy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My gut told me she was hiding something, and after everything I'd seen, I knew I was right. The worst part, I'd only caught a tiny glimpse of what's probably a much bigger mess. I felt sick, angry, and betrayed, but I didn't want to believe it yet. Not until I had proof. I kept telling myself, maybe she's just stressed, maybe she's working late because of the wedding preparations. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Not anymore. That night, I stayed up way past midnight, just scrolling through her messages and emails. I felt like I was in some weird, twisted detective movie. I kept asking myself how I missed all these signs, how I had been such a fool to trust her so blindly. Every new message made my stomach churn. She was talking to Mark about meeting up, about secret plans, about sex. Not just flirtatious banter, actual plans to meet, to have sex. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the girl I was about to marry, was planning to cheat on me with her boss just days before our wedding. I kept thinking about the lies she told me, the times she insisted she was at her sister, the times I didn't push her harder. How could I have been so blind? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The anger was building, but so was the sadness. How long had she been doing this? Had she been cheating all along, or was this just a recent thing? Did she ever really love me, or was I just a placeholder while she had her fun with Mark? All these questions flooded my mind and made it impossible to think straight. I knew I couldn't confront her like this. I needed a plan. I had to see her in the act, or at least get more proof. I decided I'd follow her the next day. I needed to see her face, see if she was lying or if she'd slip up. I felt like a damn detective, but I didn't care. I couldn't go on like this, not knowing if the woman I loved was just pretending all this time. Morning came, and I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what I would say, how I'd handle this. I was angry at her, yes, but mostly I felt betrayed by her and by myself for trusting her so much. I decided to tell her I needed to pick up something from her place. I told her I had a meeting downtown and was planning to swing by her apartment afterward. She didn't seem suspicious, just said, "Fine," and went about her morning. I felt a strange mix of determination and dread. I knew this was the moment I'd find out the truth one way or another. I left the house pretending everything was normal, but inside I was anything but. I had my phone ready, a plan in mind, and a pounding heart. I had to see her with my own eyes, or I'd never be able to face what was coming. What I didn't realize at the time was how much that one little decision would change everything. I followed her from a distance, keeping my car just enough to stay hidden but close enough to see everything. She left the house looking, well, casual, but I knew better. She had that look, something guilty yet trying to appear normal. She headed toward a hotel on the outskirts of town. My stomach dropped. I parked a few blocks away, watching her pull into the lot. My knees felt weak, but I forced myself to stay calm. I couldn't believe she was really doing this. I kept my phone ready just in case I needed to record or take photos, whatever proof I'd need. She got out of her car, looking around like she was trying to avoid being seen. I saw her slipping out of her jacket as she headed into the hotel. I waited a few minutes, heart pounding, then quietly slipped out of my car and crept closer. I managed to find a spot behind some bushes, close enough to see her through the window. That's when I saw him, Mark, her boss, no doubt about it. They were in a hotel room, and from the way they were acting, they'd definitely been there a while. My stomach clenched. They were laughing, joking at first, then things turned more intense. I could see her hand on his chest, her head tilted toward him. My mind went numb. I stood there, frozen, watching the woman I loved giving herself to another man. It was like watching my worst nightmare unfold in real time. I saw her lean in, kiss him, then sit on the bed as he undressed. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing: my wife, my future, in bed with her boss. That's when I took a quick photo with my phone. I knew I needed evidence and I didn't want her to deny it later. She was doing this right in front of my eyes. I felt a rage surge through me, but I also felt cold and hollow. How had I missed all this? How long had she been lying? I knew I had to get out of there before she saw me, but every fiber of my body wanted to confront her right then and there. I backed away slowly, my mind racing. I couldn't believe I'd been so naive. All the signs now made sense. Those late nights, the secretive texts, her distant attitude whenever I asked about her work. She'd been sneaking around with her boss, planning to cheat on me, maybe even before the wedding. My heart was pounding so loudly I thought she'd hear it if she looked out the window. I got back in my car, trembling, and drove away without making a sound. I didn't want her to know I followed her. That was the moment I realized my life was about to change forever. The woman I thought I knew was a lie, and I had no idea how to fix what was broken. That night I barely slept. My mind kept replaying what I saw her in that hotel room, her lips on Mark, the way her body moved as if she didn't care who was watching. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, so stupid to trust her. I thought about the wedding, all the plans, all the promises she made. I'd given her everything: my love, my future, my honesty, and she threw it all away in a hotel with her boss. The betrayal cut deeper than any punch. I kept thinking about how she lied to my face, insisted she was at her sister's house, and how she'd been lying right in front of me all along. I remembered the arguments, the little fights, her dismissive attitude whenever I pressed her about her late nights. It was all a cover-up. She'd been playing me from the start. I felt like a complete idiot. I was furious at her, but I also felt heartbreak. How could the woman I loved so much do this? How could she be so cold, so calculating? I wondered if she ever really loved me, or if I was just a placeholder for what she really wanted: Mark, her boss, her secret lover. I decided I had to confront her. I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. I needed answers, truth, even if it was ugly. I waited until morning, then called her into the living room. She looked surprised, almost annoyed, like I was disturbing her. I didn't hold back. I told her what I saw, what I knew, and how I'd followed her the night before. Her face went pale and she scrambled to deny everything. She said I was crazy, that I was overreacting, that I was paranoid. She called me possessive and jealous, even accused me of spying on her out of insecurity. But I knew better. I saw her in that hotel room. I saw her lips on Mark, her hands on him, her body pressed against him. There was no denying it anymore. Her reaction was typical: defensive, bitchy, and full of lies. She said it was just sex, that it meant nothing, that she was stressed out and it was a mistake. She insisted she loved me, that she was sorry, that it was a one-time thing, and that I was overthinking. She even had the nerve to call me insecure, like I was the one who was crazy for catching her in the act. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, but I just stared at her, silent. I could see the truth in her eyes. even if she was trying to hide it behind her lies. I realized then that I was no fool. I'd been played, used, and betrayed in the worst way possible. That moment marked the beginning of a new chapter I wasn't ready for, and honestly, I didn't know if I was strong enough to handle it. After that confrontation, everything changed. I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Part of me wanted to believe her, to forgive her, to pretend it was all a mistake she'd made because of stress or whatever bullshit excuse she threw out. But deep down, I knew that wasn't possible. Trust was shattered beyond repair. The woman I thought I was going to marry had been cheating on me with her boss, and she didn't even bother to hide it well. I spent the next few days in a daze trying to process what I'd seen and what I'd been told. Every time I looked at her, I saw the lies, the betrayal, the fake smiles, and the sex they'd shared. I couldn't even look her in the eyes anymore. It was like I was starting to hate her, but I also hated myself for not seeing it sooner. How could I have been so blind? I kept asking myself if I should just walk away, if I could forgive her, or if I should make her pay. And that's when I started planning my revenge. Not the stupid, childish kind where I'd blow everything up. No, I wanted her to feel exactly what I felt, humiliated, betrayed, like she had lost everything. I needed her to understand that her actions had consequences. I started gathering evidence, screenshots, emails, anything that could prove she'd been cheating. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some pushover who'd take her lies. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. She needed to know I was serious. Meanwhile, she kept lying, acting like everything was fine, even trying to blame me for overreacting. She'd say I was insecure or jealous, that I was imagining things, but I knew better. I saw her in that hotel with her hands on Mark, her lips pressed against him. I knew the truth. It was just a matter of how I was going to show her that I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. I wasn't going to be the fool she thought I was. I had to make her see that she'd crossed a line and there was no going back. That was the moment I decided to make everything right, my way. The day I finally executed my plan, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. I had spent nights debating whether I should just walk away and forget it all or make her pay for what she'd done. I chose the latter. I sent her all the evidence I'd collected, screenshots of messages, photos of her in that hotel room, her texts trying to cover her tracks. I made damn sure she saw everything. I wanted her to understand the extent of her betrayal without any room for denial. She freaked out when she saw it, started screaming, crying, calling me a psycho, saying I was crazy for invading her privacy, but I didn't care. I had already lost the woman I thought I loved, and this was my way of reclaiming some sense of control. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but the truth was right in front of her face. I told her I didn't want to be with someone who had no respect for me or our future. That was the last time I saw her. In the days that followed, I felt hollow. There was relief, yes, but also a deep, aching sadness. I'd lost my future, my trust, and a part of myself in that betrayal. But I also realized something important. I deserved better. I deserved someone who would actually be honest with me, who wouldn't cheat behind my back. I started focusing on myself, on healing, on understanding that sometimes love isn't enough when the other person refuses to be loyal. Looking back, I know I'll never forget what happened. But I also know that I'm stronger now. I've learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. If there's one thing I can tell anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, it's this: don't ignore the signs. Don't let someone manipulate your feelings or make excuses for their lies. And if you catch them cheating, don't just accept the betrayal as part of life. Fight for yourself, for your dignity. Because in the end, no one is worth losing yourself over.